Becoming a force means stepping into a version of yourself so rooted, so unapologetic, and so alive that your very presence shifts the atmosphere. A force is not easily ignored. A force is not easily silenced. A force is not controlled by external pressures or fleeting opinions. To become a force as a woman is to embody such clarity, such strength, and such fearlessness that people cannot help but respect you, even if they don't fully understand you. It is the natural result of breaking dependency, of setting boundaries, of embracing discomfort, of building resilience. Once you've walked through all of that, you emerge not just stronger, but unshakable. A force is not about being loud for the sake of being heard. It is about the power of presence. When you walk into a room with confidence, when you speak with conviction, when your energy radiates alignment with truth, people notice without you having to demand it. That is the difference between performance and authenticity. Performance seeks attention, authenticity commands it. Becoming a force requires that you stop performing for approval and start living fully in who you are. The beauty of becoming a force is that it doesn't just change you, it changes the people around you. Your strength inspires others to rise. Your boundaries teach others how to respect themselves. Your fearlessness challenges others to face their own truths. When you embody power unapologetically, you become a mirror, showing others what is possible for them too. And that ripple effect is why becoming a force is not selfish, it is necessary. The world needs more women who refuse to dim, who refuse to hide, who refuse to be defined by anyone but themselves. But becoming a force also requires responsibility. Power without wisdom can destroy. Influence without integrity can mislead. That's why the foundation must always be rooted in self-awareness and truth. A woman who becomes a force is not reckless. She is intentional. She uses her strength to build, not to destroy. She uses her voice to heal, not to harm. She uses her presence to uplift, not to dominate. That balance is what makes her feared by some but respected by all. To become a force, you must embrace the discomfort of being misunderstood. Not everyone will applaud your growth. Some will call you intimidating. Some will accuse you of being too much. Some will resent that you are no longer available for their exploitation. But none of that matters because being a force was never about pleasing people. It was about honoring your purpose. If everyone is comfortable with you, it means you're probably still playing small. A force disrupts. A force shakes the ground. A force creates change. And change is never comfortable. Becoming a force also means embracing expansion. You do not stay in one version of yourself forever. You keep evolving, keep rising, keep discovering new levels of strength and depth. You refuse to settle, refuse to stagnate, refuse to shrink. That constant expansion is what makes you unstoppable because you are always growing, always becoming, always transforming into the fullest expression of yourself. When you live as a force, fear no longer rules you, dependency no longer chains you, and weakness no longer defines you. You move with purpose. You act with clarity. You love with strength. You stand so firmly in who you are that nothing outside of you can destabilize your foundation. And that is what makes you fearless. Not that life becomes easier, but that you have become stronger. To become a force is to finally take up the space you were always meant to occupy. It is to live as a woman who is undeniable, unshakable, and unforgettable. And when you reach that point, you no longer just exist, you impact. You no longer just survive, you thrive. You no longer just hope, you create. That is what it means to be strong, fearless, and unstoppable. Emotional resilience is the ability to face the storms of life without letting them define or destroy you. It is the strength to bend but not break, to feel deeply but not drown, to hurt but still heal. Every strong and fearless woman understands that life will not always be gentle. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will challenge you. Loss, failure, rejection. These are not possibilities. They are certainties. Difference between women who collapse under the weight of life and those who rise above it lies in resilience. Emotional resilience is not about suppressing your feelings. It's about mastering them so they no longer master you. Too many confuse resilience with numbness, thinking that to be strong means to feel nothing. But resilience is not about becoming a stone. It's about becoming a tree. A tree does not resist the wind by being rigid. It survives by bending, by adapting, by allowing the storm to pass while its roots remain anchored. Emotional resilience is the same. You do not pretend the pain doesn't exist. You acknowledge it. You process it. You learn from it, but you refuse to let it uproot you. This kind of strength begins with self-awareness. You cannot be resilient if you are not honest about what you're feeling. Denial only buries emotions alive, and buried emotions always find a way to surface, often in destructive ways. Resilient women are courageous enough to face their feelings without letting those feelings dictate their future. They can cry and still keep moving. They can feel fear and still make bold decisions. They can experience heartbreak and still keep their heart open to love. That balance is what makes them unstoppable. Emotional resilience also means you stop giving external forces the power to control your internal world. People will say things, do things, and project things onto you. But resilience allows you to decide, will I absorb this or will I release it? Will I let their behavior define my worth? Or will I anchor myself in what I know is true? When you are resilient, you no longer let someone else's opinion or betrayal dictate how you see yourself. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your response. Every time you choose composure over chaos, you build resilience. Every time you refuse to let a temporary storm derail your purpose, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you rise after being knocked down, you add another layer to your unshakable self. That's the beauty of resilience. It compounds. Each trial becomes training. Each setback becomes fuel. Each wound, once healed, becomes wisdom. Resilient women are not unscarred. They are scarred and still standing. They are not unbroken. They have been broken and rebuilt themselves stronger. They are not immune to pain. They simply refuse to let pain have the final word. And that is the heart of fearlessness, not a life without wounds, but a life where the wounds transform you instead of destroy you. When you cultivate emotional resilience, you move through the world differently. You stop fearing failure because you know you can rise again. You stop fearing rejection because you know your worth is not dependent on being chosen. You stop fearing loss because you know nothing taken from you can strip away who you are. And in that space, you become untouchable, not because nothing touches you, but because nothing can break you anymore. So let the storms come. Let the winds howl. Let life test you. With resilience, you will not only survive, you will grow, you will expand. You will rise from every fall stronger, wiser, and more unshakable than before. And that is the essence of becoming a strong and fearless woman, mastering your emotions so they no longer control you, but instead fuel your transformation. Discomfort is the birthplace of strength. Every woman who has ever risen above limitations, every woman who has ever transformed her life, every woman who has ever become fearless had to walk through seasons of discomfort. Yet so many avoid it, clinging to what feels safe, what feels predictable, what feels easy. Comfort zones may feel good, but they do not grow you. They keep you stagnant, repeating the same patterns, living the same cycles, never reaching the depth of your potential. If you want to become strong and fearless, you must learn to lean into discomfort, not run from it. Discomfort is a teacher. It exposes your weaknesses, your fears, and the illusions you've been living under. It shows you where you've been too dependent, where you've been compromising, where you've been settling. And while that truth stings, it is necessary, because without it, you cannot rise. Growth is never painless. Transformation is never convenient. To break out of old cycles, you will have to feel the stretch. You will have to sit with the uneasiness of saying no when you used to say yes, the heaviness of walking away from relationships that no longer serve you, the vulnerability of pursuing dreams that might fail. That is discomfort, but it is also liberation. The path of discomfort is where resilience is built. You don't become fearless by staying where you are safe. You become fearless by walking into the unknown and realizing you can handle it. Each time you face discomfort, you expand your capacity. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You realize that what once terrified you no longer holds power over you. This is why discomfort is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It is the fire that forges unshakable women. Think about the moments in your life that shaped you most. They were not the easy seasons. They were the struggles, the heartbreaks, the times you were stretched beyond what you thought you could handle. And yet, here you are, still standing stronger than before. Discomfort broke you open, but it also rebuilt you into someone wiser, tougher, more resilient. That is the gift hidden inside the pain transformation. Without it, you remain soft in the way the world wants you, pliable, compliant, untested. With it, you become a force no one can dismiss. But you must choose discomfort intentionally. Too many wait until life forces them into it. They wait until everything crumbles before they change. Fearless women don't wait. They willingly step into the stretch. They choose the hard conversations over silent resentment. They choose the risk of failure over the safety of mediocrity. They choose walking away from toxic love rather than staying in false comfort. They choose growth, even when it hurts, because they know the pain of discomfort is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts a lifetime. Discomfort is where courage lives. It is not glamorous, it is not easy, but it is the path to everything you say you want. You cannot become strong without lifting the weight of challenges. You cannot become fearless without facing what scares you. You cannot become extraordinary while clinging to the ordinary. You must decide that your growth is worth the discomfort, that your future is worth the stretch, that your purpose is worth the risk. So stop running from the hard things, stop hiding from the unknown, stop numbing yourself to avoid pain. Instead, step into it, feel the discomfort, and let it refine you. Because every time you choose growth over comfort, you are building a version of yourself who cannot be shaken. And that version, the woman who has walked through fire and come out stronger, is the woman you were always meant to be. Boundaries are one of the greatest demonstrations of strength a woman can possess. They are not walls that keep people out. They are doors that decide who gets access to you and under what conditions. Without boundaries, you will always find yourself drained, overlooked, and resentful because people will take as much as you allow them to, not out of cruelty, but because human nature gravitates toward what is available. If you make yourself endlessly available, if you never say no, if you allow your time, your energy, and your heart to be consumed without limit, you will eventually lose yourself. That is why boundaries are not selfish, they are necessary. The power of boundaries lies in clarity. Boundaries are a declaration of what you will and will not accept. They are an announcement to the world that you know your worth and that you refuse to settle for less. When you say no to disrespect, you say yes to dignity. When you say no to exploitation, you say yes to self-respect. When you say no to people who only take, you say yes to relationships that reciprocate. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about protecting the sacredness of who you are. For too long, women have been taught that boundaries make them difficult, unkind, or unloving. The opposite is true. Boundaries make your love sustainable. Without boundaries, your kindness will be abused, your generosity will be drained, and your compassion will become exhaustion. With boundaries, your kindness becomes more powerful, your generosity more intentional, and your compassion more authentic. You cannot pour endlessly without refilling, and boundaries are how you protect your ability to keep giving. Boundaries also redefine respect. People respect what you respect. If you treat yourself as secondary, others will too. If you constantly bend to please, others will assume you have no limits. But when you stand firm, when you are clear about your lines, when you hold yourself to a higher standard, others are forced to rise to that level if they want access to you. This is not arrogance, it is self-awareness. It is knowing that your time, your energy, and your heart are valuable, and you will not squander them on what is unworthy. The most powerful thing about boundaries is that they reveal who truly belongs in your life. The wrong people will resist your boundaries because they only benefited from your lack of them. but the right people will respect them, honor them, and even feel safer because of them. Boundaries filter out those who are only there to take and create space for those who are willing to give. They make relationships healthier, deeper, and more balanced because everyone knows where they stand. But boundaries are not just about other people. They are about you. They force you to honor your own values, to align with your own truth, and to stop betraying yourself. Every time you enforce a boundary, you strengthen your self-respect. Every time you choose no when no is the truth, you grow in power. Every time you protect your space, you remind yourself that you are worthy of peace. And that is where strength and fearlessness are born, not in pleasing everyone, but in honoring yourself first. Do not be afraid of the discomfort that comes with setting boundaries. Some will resist, some will call you selfish, some will walk away. Let them, because what you gain is far greater than what you lose. You gain your energy back. You gain your self-worth back. You gain your life back. And in the end, boundaries do not limit you. They free you. They free you to live with strength, with clarity, and with a presence that demands respect without ever having to beg for it. Dependency is one of the most subtle chains that keeps women small. It doesn't always look like chains. It often disguises itself as love, as security, as approval, as belonging. But when your sense of worth depends on someone else's validation, when your peace depends on whether someone stays or goes, when your identity is wrapped around the opinions of others, you are not free. You are living in dependency. And dependency, no matter how comfortable it feels, will always rob you of your strength. The problem with dependency is that it convinces you that you can't stand on your own. It whispers that you need permission to dream, permission to speak, permission to rise. It tells you that without their approval, you are nothing. And so too many women shrink themselves to keep others comfortable, terrified of what will happen if they are no longer needed or accepted. But here is the truth. You are not here to be someone's crutch, someone's reflection, or someone's shadow. You were created whole. You were created with everything you need to stand tall, to live boldly, to walk in purpose. Breaking dependency doesn't mean rejecting love. It doesn't mean isolating yourself or becoming cold. It means you stop letting external forces dictate your internal power. It means you refuse to let your mood rise and fall on whether or not someone notices you. It means you stop defining your beauty by likes, your value by attention, your worth by relationships. It means you take back the authority to validate yourself, because the moment you stop needing others to tell you who you are, you begin to live from a place of unstoppable freedom. Think about how many decisions you've made because of dependency. How many times you said yes when you wanted to say no. How many times you stayed silent because you were afraid of losing approval. How many times you betrayed your intuition because you didn't want to upset someone. That is the cost of dependency. Every time you give away a piece of your power, you weaken the foundation of your life. But when you break it, when you step into independence, you build a foundation so strong that no rejection, no loss, no abandonment can shake you. The most fearless women are not the ones who never face rejection. They are the ones who can face it and keep standing. They don't crumble when someone leaves because they never built their identity on being chosen. They don't fall apart when someone disapproves because they never built their worth on being liked. They don't lose themselves in relationships because they never surrendered their voice in the first place. That is the power of breaking dependency. You become whole again. And when you are whole, your love becomes stronger, not weaker, because you are no longer giving from emptiness. You are giving from overflow. You are no longer grasping to be validated. You are offering love freely without fear of what you'll get in return. Breaking dependency liberates not just you, but everyone around you, because people can finally experience you as you are, not as the edited, diluted version who is desperate to be accepted. Dependency is comfortable, but it is a cage. Independence is uncomfortable at first, but it is freedom. And freedom is where you find your power. Freedom is where you find your voice. Freedom is where you discover that you are enough, with or without anyone's approval. When you finally stop living as a dependent, you stop living small. You rise. You expand. You command your life with a presence that cannot be ignored. And that is what it means to become strong and fearless. You are no longer bound by the need to be validated because you already know your worth. Fearlessness is often romanticized as this bold, reckless energy where nothing scares you, where you charge headfirst into life without hesitation. But real fearlessness doesn't work that way. Real fearlessness is not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about moving with truth even when fear whispers in your ear. It's about living from a place of alignment so deep that the fear loses its control over you. Fear thrives in the dark, in uncertainty, in self-deception. But when you live in truth, fear loses its grip because nothing is more powerful than a woman who knows who she is and what she stands for. Every time you deny your truth, you give fear power. You give it a doorway into your mind, into your decisions, into your future. That's why so many women feel paralyzed, not because they're weak, but because they've been silencing their truth for too long. They stay in relationships where they know they are unseen. They stay in jobs that drain them. They surround themselves with people who don't honor their value, all because fear convinces them that the truth will cost too much. But here's the paradox. The very thing you're afraid of losing by speaking your truth is the very thing you'll never truly have without it. You cannot have real love, real respect, or real peace while living a lie. Fearlessness comes from deciding that the truth is worth it, that no matter the fallout, no matter who leaves, no matter what shifts, you would rather live authentically than live comfortably. Comfort is temporary, but truth is eternal. When you begin to choose truth over fear, something shifts in you. Your voice gets stronger. Your steps become bolder. You stop second-guessing yourself because you're no longer operating from the shaky ground of people's opinions. You're standing on the solid rock of your own integrity. The beauty of truth is that it doesn't demand perfection. It just demands honesty. Fearlessness is not about having no fear. It's about refusing to let fear dictate your choices. You can feel fear in your chest. You can hear its whispers in your mind and still choose to walk in truth. That moment, that decision is what makes you fearless. And over time, each step you take in truth builds a muscle of courage so strong that fear becomes nothing more than background noise. When you live from truth, you stop performing. You stop editing yourself to fit in. You stop apologizing for taking up space. And suddenly, the fear of rejection, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of failing, it all starts to shrink. Because when your compass is truth, you no longer need the world's approval to validate you. You no longer need everyone to like you. You no longer need to hide the parts of yourself that don't fit the mold. You simply live. And in that authenticity, you attract the people, the opportunities, and the environments that honor who you really are. Fearlessness, then, is not reckless. It is deeply rooted in wisdom. It is the quiet knowing that no matter what happens, you are strong enough to handle it because you are anchored in what is real. Truth gives you that stability. Truth gives you that clarity. Truth gives you that resilience. And once you taste that freedom, once you understand that nothing is worth betraying yourself for, you begin to live a life that feels expansive, unstoppable, and alive. To be fearless is to be honest. To be fearless is to stop hiding. To be fearless is to choose truth over comfort, over acceptance, over fear itself. And when you do that, you become a woman who cannot be shaken because fear has no power where truth resides. Strength is one of the most misunderstood qualities a woman can embody. Too often, people confuse strength with harshness as if the only way to be powerful is to be cold, unfeeling, or aggressive. This misunderstanding has kept many women hesitant to step into their full authority, fearing that if they become strong, they will lose their kindness, their tenderness, or their ability to love. But the truth is, strength is not harshness. Strength is not about building walls so high that no one can reach you. Strength is about clarity, integrity, and presence. It's about showing up in your truth, rooted so deeply that the storms of life cannot easily shake you. Think about the strongest people you've ever met. Their strength isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't walk into a room trying to prove itself. True strength is quiet confidence. It is the ability to remain centered even when everything around you is in chaos. It is the refusal to be manipulated, the courage to stand alone, and the wisdom to choose your battles wisely. Harshness, on the other hand, is brittle. It lashes out. It reacts. It wounds others because it is wounded itself. Harshness comes from fear. Strength comes from love. This distinction matters because as women rise into their power, they will be accused of being too harsh, too difficult, or too much. These labels are weapons used to push you back into compliance. But when you understand that your strength does not have to compromise your humanity, you become unstoppable. You can be strong and compassionate. You can be fearless and kind. You can be bold without being cruel. Strength allows you to draw boundaries, while harshness destroys bridges. And what the world needs is not more destruction. It needs women who can build, lead, and nurture while refusing to be diminished. Strength is knowing when to say no, not because you don't care, but because you do. You care about your energy, your purpose, and your future. It's choosing yourself without apology. Harshness says no out of spite. Strength says no out of self-respect. Harshness shuts people out. Strength invites the right people in. This is why cultivating strength is not about changing your heart, but about anchoring it. When you anchor yourself in self-awareness, in truth, and in boundaries, your love becomes even more powerful because it is no longer dependent on approval or validation. Many women fear that if they step into strength, they will lose their softness. But real strength doesn't strip away your tenderness. It protects it. It ensures that your kindness is not exploited, that your generosity is not taken for granted, and that your voice is not drowned out. Strength makes your compassion sustainable. Without strength, kindness becomes a weakness others can manipulate. With strength, kindness becomes a force that transforms the world. Every time you stand firm in your truth without belittling others, you prove that strength is not harshness. Every time you hold your boundaries with grace, you prove that strength is not cruelty. Every time you choose dignity over desperation, you prove that strength is not coldness. Strength is balance. It is both gentle and fierce. It is the hand that comforts and the voice that commands respect. When you stop fearing that strength will make you harsh, you free yourself to embody a new kind of power, a power that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to dominate, doesn't need to wound, a power that simply is. And that kind of power is magnetic. It doesn't demand respect. It naturally commands it. Strength is not the absence of heart. It is the protector of it. When you embody that truth, you become both fearless and deeply human, unshakable yet still beautifully soft in the ways that matter. When we talk about being soft, we need to pause and ask ourselves what that really means. For most women, softness has been defined by culture, by upbringing, by expectations that were never truly ours to begin with. Softness becomes a performance. It's the smile when you don't want to smile. It's the silence when you want to speak. It's the willingness to bend when you know you should stand firm. Society has told women for centuries that to be loved, to be accepted, to be considered good, you must soften yourself. You must suppress the edge. You must avoid the confrontation. And while there is nothing wrong with compassion, nothing wrong with kindness, there is a danger in mistaking compliance for strength. The illusion of softness is the biggest lie that has kept countless women trapped in lives they don't want, relationships that drain them, and jobs where their brilliance is overlooked. You see, when you are soft in the way the world demands, you become safe for everyone else but dangerous for yourself. You become a version of you that is easy to digest, easy to control, easy to forget, and slowly, without even realizing it, you start betraying your true self. Every yes that should have been a no, every time you held your tongue when the truth burned in your chest, every time you prioritized being liked over being respected, you chipped away at your own power. But here's the truth. You were not created to be soft in that sense. You were not born to be someone's shadow, someone's option, or someone's afterthought. You were created to be a force. And forces are not silent. Forces are not timid. Forces are not meant to be contained in a box of society's expectations. A storm doesn't apologize for the thunder. Fire doesn't apologize for the heat. And yet women are constantly told to apologize for their intensity, for their brilliance, for their strength. That's the illusion of softness. The lie that you are better when you are smaller. What would your life look like if you rejected that illusion? If you stopped shaping yourself to fit into molds that were never made for you? Imagine the relationships you would walk away from if you no longer believed that being agreeable was love. Imagine the opportunities you would claim if you no longer believed you had to be quiet to be accepted. Imagine the version of yourself that would emerge if you no longer lived as a diluted version of your truth. That is the difference between living soft and living strong. Strength doesn't mean cruelty. It doesn't mean you lose your compassion or your heart. Strength means clarity. It means that you know what you stand for and you refuse to bend in the wrong direction. It means that you can still love deeply, but you love without losing yourself. It means you can still serve, but not from a place of exhaustion or exploitation. It means you can still be vulnerable, but your vulnerability is a choice, not a weapon used against you. The illusion of softness is seductive because it feels safe. You don't make waves. You don't draw attention. You don't ruffle feathers. But here's the problem. Safety is not the same as fulfillment. Safety is not the same as power. Safety is not the same as living. Playing soft will keep you from pain, but it will also keep you from purpose. The women who rise, the women who build legacies, the women who inspire generations, they are not remembered for their compliance. They are remembered for their courage. If you want to become strong and fearless, the first step is seeing through this illusion. Stop mistaking passivity for peace. Stop believing that silence will protect you. Stop thinking that shrinking will make life easier. It doesn't, it only makes you invisible. And an invisible woman cannot change her life, let alone the world. The moment you stop buying into the illusion of softness is the moment you awaken to your true power. And that awakening, it is fierce, it is unstoppable, and it will change everything.